Hi all, welcome to Soul's Journey. I'm going to do a walkthrough of another older deck. Somebody had asked me about it the other day if I had ever done a walkthrough, and I never did because I wasn't on YouTube when I got this deck many years ago. So this is the Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels. I did do a blog post on it when I first got the deck, and I referred to it at the time as the Tarot of Vampires of Melrose Place because all these vampires are just incredibly gorgeous. So I got a real kick out of that. I mean, it was just, they were too pretty. And this is no criticism of the deck. I love the deck. I worked with it exclusively for a really long time. And I still like it, although I don't use it as often as I used to. Okay, so this originally came out in 2010. And I remember I hauled it to work with me a number of times. And I was pulling some cards at my desk one day, and I suddenly realized that I didn't have the Ace of Wands, which are called scepters, in this deck. And so I looked around, I couldn't find it, so I wrote to Llewellyn, and I said, you know, I just got this deck, and I seem to have already lost the Ace of Scepters. Is there any chance I could get a replacement? And they were like, oh, sure, no problem. They were happy to send me a replacement right away. And then, of course, you know, the minute I got that, I found the original one, so now I've got two of those. But anyway, so it did come in one of these kind of flimsy boxes that has like kind of come apart, and I think I've glued it back together a couple of times. But I don't really keep the deck in that anymore, so it doesn't really matter. I use this beautiful Baba Studio bag, which is an image taken from the Bohemian Gothic of the Queen of Swords, who is a vampire. It's a little easier to tell in, I think, the later versions of that deck. The fangs are a little more obvious, but anyway, it seemed like an appropriate bag to keep it in. So here I'm just going to do a little walkthrough. We'll just take a look at the cards. And some of them take a minute to kind of, it's like I didn't quite understand the image at first, so you kind of have to sit and think about it for a bit. So here we've got the Fool rising from his grave for the first time, I guess. Oh, here's the backs. They are, I believe, fully reversible, if you care about that. It's pretty, it's kind of standard Llewellyn cardstock. It's probably, I think it might be a little better than some of the ones that came later. Here's the Magician and the Priestess. I always like this image very much. Anything with, you know, a moon and the Priestess, and she's got her book sort of levitating in the air there, which is kind of cool. And the Empress. Emperor. And I forgot to mention, the majors are not numbered, so you can put Justice and Strength wherever you want them. I just reordered the cards and I stuck Justice in as 8. The Hermit, he's just emerging from his tomb, I believe is the story behind it. And the Wheel. He's hanging upside down, I think, on a cross there. I would, stop and read some of the symbology from the book, because the book that comes with this deck is just really excellent. And we'll get to that as we get there, after I get through the cards, because it's a really tremendous book. And the cards are pretty dark. I think the camera's showing them a little bit lighter than they actually are, but that's okay, so you can see the details. This could almost have worked as the Lovers as well. So I'm not sure, but I think all these were taken from existing images of Ian Daniels. Some of them may have been created specifically for the deck. That was, 10 years ago. I don't really remember now. So here's my Ace of Scepters that I'm now the proud owner of 2 copies of. But thank you, Llewellyn. I do appreciate that, being so ready to send me the new. I don't know if they still could. If the deck is still in print, if you've lost a card, sometimes you can write to them and they'll, if they have access to their old stock, they'll go ahead and send you a replacement, as long as they still have some. So as you can see, the scepters are actually crosses. Which kind of weird for vampires to be running around with crosses, but you can see they're all very sultry, very Melrose Place looking. Like I said, I joke about that, but no disrespect to Ian. I like his art very much. I got some of his prints when I got his Fairy Enchantments deck. So, just a little fun there. So, grails are obviously the cups. I love this card so much. I had this as my Abbey for a while. I just think this is absolutely gorgeous. So, oh yeah, in the quartz, you probably already noticed, but if not, I'll just mention that they are the daughter, the prince, the queen, and the lord. Ace of knives, or swords. They all have different colored roses associated with them. And that's the image that's on the front of the book. I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, Daughter of Knives, Prince of Knives, Queen, and the Lord. And then the skulls, of course, would be the pentacles. I think it was the description for this card in the book that was, it really kind of blew me away at the time. You may have heard other people talk about the book, but it really is one of the best tarot books I think I've ever read. So let's take a quick look at that. So let's see, let's zoom out a bit. So it's called Phantasmagoria, and it is pretty chunky. It's like your standard, hang on, let me get my handy dandy ruler. Okay, so it's like 5.5 by, we'll call it 8, 5.5 by 8. But this is the print, and there are no illustrations inside. Well, some. Yeah, Tree of Life. But, you know, there's no full color pictures of, there's no space wasted on redundant images. So what it gives you is shadow and light aspects. Now, in the early part of the book, you figure out, okay, so it talks about the roses, fear in the shadow, goes into the shadow, the hunger, the blood rose, the nature of matter and time, which you don't get everywhere. Tarot of Vampyres, Alchemy. So then it goes into the major arcana and minors, goes into the suits, court cards. I'm trying to find, so using Kabbalah and Tarot, card spreads and exercises, reading tips and guidelines, there's some spreads. So then it goes into the kith and kin, personal card portraits. So you're encouraged to choose your own vampire clan and, or figure out which one you are according to the book. Vampire court. And then here we've got astrological aspect, dynasty card, bloodline card, vampire court, vampire clan, and this is based on birth date. So there's a lot to this. The actual cards, when we get into them, you get the essence, the message. Okay, so the message starts here. This is just the Fool. Then it goes into the analysis and symbolism, the shadow, and then on to the Magician. You get the same thing on each of the majors. I don't think it's quite that detailed. I haven't looked at the book in a while. The minors, well, Yeah, I guess it is. I take that back. I'd forgotten. I haven't looked at it for a while. There's so much information in this book. It's just, so let's see, I wanted to talk about the Daughter of Skulls. Okay, oh, it starts with the Lord, then the Queen, then the Prince, and then finally the Daughter of Skulls is the last card talked about in the book. And the alchemy is the earthy aspect of Earth, regulates Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, kindred spirits, and you get this for all the cards. Ace of Skulls, the Princess of the Echoing Hills. So the Daughter of Skulls symbolizes limitless potential of life on Earth. She represents birth of the new and the pregnancy which precedes it. She characterizes all that is life-enriching, abundant, perfect, and exquisite. See, the Daughter of Skulls represents the earthly manifestation of the original essence of the seed of the spirit. As the last of the minor cards, she is the culmination and completion of the whole process. She bears within her body the fertilized seed of the first minor card, the Ace of Scepters, and all the cards in between. This gives her unlimited potential and infinite possibilities. So I'm not big on Kabbalah. I don't really study the Kabbalah, but I have to say I really love this book. Like I said, there is so much information in it. So if you're at all interested in tarot and Kabbalah, you might like this take on it, because I found it to be vastly more accessible than a lot of the books that talk about that connection. Like I said, I've never really studied the Kabbalah, but I got a lot of useful information from this book on that perspective. So, and of course you can ignore that if you want, if that's not your thing. But anyway, there is the Tarot of Vampyres by Ian Daniels. It came out in 2010. So if you haven't seen it, now you have. So thanks very much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Blessed be.